Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Mad Painter Show. Okay, I know I have on the same thing because I literally, after I finished that last video, I know it's a different day, but I went on and recorded it and I got the same thing on. But just to make a slight difference, I put a ponytail in my head. So let's continue. So, today we're going to be talking about seeing past the pain and when your pain plays a role towards your purpose. Okay, so since that last video was literally a few minutes ago and not days, I remember more of what we talked about. So I remember that I wrote down belief, and I mentioned somewhere in that conversation as far as with Job. So I figure I would go ahead and do this belief thing with Job. Okay, so I know you've had days where it's like you may have said to yourself, man, if it's not one thing, it's another. Right? Okay, so here it is. This is kind of like, first of all, in us working on our best self, we're working to change our language. My cousin once said to me before that he paid attention to how when he would say that, definitely more things continued to happen, and they weren't good things. But I'm going off into the story of Job because this is in what I'm talking about as far as belief and with language. Because when you learn to be thankful in all things, it kind of shifts your perspective. That's not kind of nothing. It shifts your perspective in how you see things, and you are looking for a greater outcome. You're in expectation of things working for your good because you're believing and praying and so forth and so on, whatever that scripture is. So Job. So here it is. We have Job. Job got paper. Job got money. Job got children. He got enough money to take care of them children and other people children because he was also helping people in the community. So we have him, and so he's rich. He's helping people. He's married. He got gobs of kids, right? And Job is doing his thing. I will not go into depth with this because I'm one of those people. Anytime I'm talking to the kids, especially when it's in reference to school, baby, always learn more than what they're teaching you. So don't just go off what I'm telling you. Learn for yourself. Read it. Because people who are deceiving you, trust me, they reading them laws and they reading them principles and so forth and so on. And that's how you understand how to manipulate it. But that's not what this is about. This is learning how to better go with the flow. And what is the purpose of this? Seeing past the pain. Hallelujah. So we have Job. Now, rich, helping people. Okay, so then there's this situation with Job where Job loses the children. His wife bring a little bit of drama to him. Then he got these friends. You know what I'm saying? They just get to a point where it's like, bro, why are you here? Okay, so I'm going surface on this. Now, we have these things going on with Job. Job did not say, man, Job, if it ain't one thing, it's another. He did not say that not once. And as we're seeing, because I know the end of the story, and the people who have read the story, they know the end of the story, and they see how it ends. And it ends quite well for Job. And that's that book in there that looks like Job, because I feel like that's our job, and that's why his name was like that. But anywho, I digress. So, here it is. He's going through these things. So we have Job in this one box. He got this stuff going on, right? In the beginning of the story of Job. Okay, so in living life and in seeing different people's perspectives and artwork, because for a while I didn't know exactly where that was coming from, but after reading Job and letting that marinate for a little while, I eat on that, chew on it, and it's like sitting and digesting, it's processing. So a lot of people see this situation that happens with God and the devil, whoever else was up there during this conversation, with God and the devil, as if this is a game that's being played on man. Like these entities are playing the game with man. And I mean, I could see how they can see that, but let's just change our perspective here. You know how you go to school, and in order for you to graduate to the next level, you have to be tested, right? Because they're not just going to pass you. And I understand that has actually happened to a lot of people where they have been passed, but didn't you miss something? Weren't you left behind on something? Even though it looked like you kept going, technically you were still back there somewhere, right? Okay, yes. So where this is going, when we're going from faith to faith, we have to be tested in order to know that we're actually learning and implementing the things that we are learning. This is where the wisdom is coming in at. So here we have this conversation with God and the devil. And instead of looking at this as a game, look at this more as now this is a situation of life. The stuff that Job went through in this story, everyone has suffered some part of that or all parts of that, of the loss that Job had experienced, because he had lost a lot of things and lives in this situation. And so here it is, there's this conversation, and Satan is allowed to do so much, but he is not allowed to touch his life. So in looking at our lives, Satan may not even be present and life just be lifing. So, but here this is showing where Satan is in operation, and he is moving. He's in operation behind the scene in the beginning of the story. So here it is. You have all these things, what's going on with Job. And because we're reading the story, we have more awareness of the behind the scenes of why he's having these attacks, so to speak, on a surface level, because I've heard other people's perspective. But we're just going to stick to what Job did have an idea about and what he had, because he had some beliefs of God. He had some awareness of God from his people or from somewhere, because in this story, it's showing when things happen to him. The first thing I thought about was his partner, his wife. We have situations where our partners can be very provoking sometimes. And baby, let me tell you, I say this often. It's a lot of people out there that may not believe in God, but let me tell you, you better be happy other people believe in God, because if they did not, them reactions and responses may not be so happy, joy. So when Job's wife told him she might as well just curse God and die, this man did not curse her out. He did not kick her out. I'm just saying, I can see plenty of situations where that could have went left a whole nother way. It just could have went wrong. So here it is. We have all these things that's happening with Job. He's experiencing all these different things. And Job does have some kind of awareness with God because of his responses in different situations, which I'll let you read that on your own, because it's been a while since I read it for myself. But I still remember the story. So in this, and what I've also paid attention to was hearing other people talk about this story, especially speaking from a flesh point of view. It's hard to see how God could allow all these things to happen in his life, right? Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, they see how Job, at the end, he ended up gaining more than what he had in the beginning. And so people look at this financial abundance and this having more children abundance as, woo, like it made up for something, even though we couldn't, we had relationships with them kids that lost and, they was gone. But, it's a little bit better now that we have a little bit extra more money. And, other kids, it's not like we by ourselves and we not leaving nothing to know something, something to somebody. So, yeah, just in listening to that from the flesh, people are looking at that part as like that is the one, like that's, yeah, he got that extra. No. See, when he has this conversation with God, it's like a light. It's like a, oh my God, you really do exist. At least this is how I see this moment, because that's how that moment was for me. Like, holy moly, this is for real. So when Job had this conversation with God, it brought Job to a different perspective. It was the beginning of his relationship with God. And even though this is the end, I feel like it's the beginning. And I've been told that Job is actually the first story, but how, in my perspective, how it's arranged by Genesis being first and Job being in the middle, I feel like the New Testament starts to tell the beginning of Job's life with God, because it starts off a totally different experience than when you believe, but you have an idea, but then when you actually experience it, and it's like, oh. So here it is. After this conversation that he has with God, God gives Job something to do as far as in praying for his friends. Now, look at this. This came to me today in writing this, because this also comes with belief. And in hearing people talk about God being an angry God. Okay. God may be angry about things. He may get angry about things or people or, certain stuff. But God is not... and creator. I'm just going to say creator too, because there is a masculine, feminine aspect of God which you should seek out, because many breasted one. So anywho, so here this is that anger is not the fullness thereof that is of God. Because here we also have that anger rests in the bosoms of fool. And if God was a fool, like that's just how he was, angry, that it just wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So here it is. Now, there is a scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. And this is, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Now we rewind back to the beginning of this story with Job. Now let's just say God had this in mind well before he even said anything to Jeremiah about it. So here it is. God has this in mind in the process of having this conversation with Satan, and all these things happen with Job. And then there's this conversation. And God knows these things in the midst of having this conversation. So he has this conversation. And my point in going with that angry thing, because he didn't say, now, your friends, I ain't like that. I ain't like how they was talking about me. I'm going to need you to just go ahead and cut their heads off because they was bogus. No. He let Job be a real friend, and a loving friend at that. Because when you experience God, when you experience this love, and believe that you can get this love and experience, because he loves you. When you get this experience, you aren't, especially when thou have gone through thy suffering, when you have suffered through certain things, the last thing you want to see, especially in experiencing the love of God, the last thing you want to see is somebody else suffer. And even when they are your enemies. And it's like this experience takes you on a whole nother something else than just head knowledge. So when it came to his friends, it wasn't an angry thing that happened. I mean, I'm just thinking about me and being a loving person. I understand. I got plenty of people out there that can't stand me. I know. But at the same time, when it comes to experiencing the love of that I have to offer, and knowing that if friends are speaking ill of me or something like that, especially when this is someone that's in need, and I love to feed people as much as I love to eat, I love to feed people too. And so it's if you're out there hungry, enemy or no enemy, and I'm not looking at this, I can't stand. God wouldn't even allow me to be like that. And it's a thing in just, and it's a processing thing, because I didn't start off like this at first. So, but it's a processing thing in showing that, if I love you, I want you to show that love that they weren't. That's not how I am. I can show you better than I can tell you. They don't know me. That's why they speak of me in such ways. Because that's not how I am. So let me show you how I am. And I get these things happen to you and all this stuff went on, but it was for a purpose. And in this purpose, it played a part in all of those things played a part in his purpose. It made him more of an empathetic person, at least I feel. Because when you go through certain things, and then when you have this belief, because I felt like he was probably just going, get ready to, man, he probably wanted to die. I can't remember it. Oh, the surface, again, this is surface. Read it for yourself. I'm sure he was pushed to the edge, because, his friends like, ugh. He was going through physical things, mental things. It was all this, it was spiritual warfare. Thank you. Spiritual warfare is what's happening. And especially when things are seeming like it's happening back to back to back to back to back to back. That's when it's time to just take a step back and say, wait a minute, pay attention. We have to pay attention, because these pressures come to us so that we can curse God and die. And it's not so much that God's feelings are going to be hurt, but we are missing out on so many precious gifts because we stuck in our feelings. And recognizing that pain and that pain serves a purpose in helping us to becoming our better selves. Because when we allow room for healing, because God offers healing, He's offering love. I know there's so much happening that we may not have anybody to speak to, talk to about it. They may not understand. Honey, even if it's the dirtiest of the dirtiest and you feel dirty of the dirtiest and doing it, talk to God about it. Don't be ashamed to ask for forgiveness. This is between you and your Creator. This has nothing to do with anybody else. Be honest about these things. And then once we experience these things, because on one hand, it's one thing when somebody tell you, pray about it, and it seems like nothing. But when you begin to understand the power of prayer, the power of communicating with God, the power of recognizing what His word is, what His word says, what His purpose is for you, how He feels about you and how He sees you and why He created you in such awesomeness in the way that He has and does and is and whatever the rest of that would be. So with Job, this was a spiritual experience. It wasn't a physical thing. And when we are in the flesh, there's only one way that we can look at a thing. And a lot of times, majority of times, it's pretty freaking negative. But when we are looking at a thing from spiritual discernment, we having the opportunity and having an openness with the Creator, it gives us answers. It gives us peace. We may not have the answer for everything right then and right there. We may have to endure some things. But in this process, we have a friend, we have a confidant, we have a counselor. We have it, and we have to know it's there. We have to believe it's there and reach out for it, because if you don't believe it, you ain't going to reach out for it. And this is the reason why you want to study it, because you want to know what's out there for you. Your treasures, it's out there for you. So if you like this video, if you feel like it helped somebody, helped you, what I'm trying to say, like, subscribe and share. So your pain plays a purpose. Don't sit there and pick at it. Don't complain about it. Now change your perspective. Ask questions. Ask, seek, and knock. Don't be afraid God's just sitting there waiting on you to have this conversation with Him, because He loves you way more than I do. Love you guys. Seek this wisdom out. Apply it. See you soon. And if I had this on in the next video, you know what happened. I'd maybe try and rearrange my hair. See you guys later.